Hello everyone, ChickenBrad back again with some beginner tactics. These are designed for the very beginner of beginners, teaching you how to learn to do some very basic tactics again. So these have been handpicked just for you. So go ahead and pause and take a moment if you want to try and solve this on your own, and I will walk you through it here. Alright, so in this situation, white is currently ahead. They are 2 pawns ahead. The rest of the material is equal. So black needs to come up with something good here, otherwise this passed pawn is dangerous. He's going to come down the board in a hurry. Not to mention the king is out in the open, and this rook is pinned. So those are the threats white has, but it's black's turn, and the king came down here, and let's see if we can keep that initiative. So in a situation like this, especially when it's open, the first thing we want to look at is checks. So we have a number of checks here. The rook can check here. The queen can check on either of these 3 squares or here. And is there anything else? Don't see any other checks. Maybe I'm missing something. No, I don't think so. Alright, so well, this doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, right? Because the queen can recapture, the king can recapture, and we lost our queen. Not really sure what we would do after that, right? These 2 squares, this one here, king captures, and well, we could come in with a check here afterwards, but well, the king can just move back, and I don't think we accomplished anything. This guy's still pinned, so we can't use check with him. This square is kind of the same deal. King can go up here, and we don't really have a lot of options after that. So how about the rook check here? King can take. And well, there's a number of ways the queen can come in and try and deliver a check there, but once again, it looks like our rook just got taken for nothing. So this square comes to mind immediately because it's got 2 pieces bearing down on it, which means the king cannot just simply come in and capture. So, alright, the queen comes to this square, and the king must move. Says there's no piece that can interpose. So imagining the queen is on this square, it will be bearing down like this, right? Whoop, well, not exactly like that, but along the light squares here. So the king can only go down to this square, and see if you can picture the combination after that. Remember, the queen is over here, king is here. We have a couple of other options. The rook can come in and deliver check here. Now that looks pretty juicy because that would pick up the queen after. Let me just kind of play this out for you. So remember, the queen's here and king is here. Rook comes up to this square. So now all these squares are covered, right? So the king, there's a lot of arrows, but king only has one option to come down here. And from that, the queen or the rook could come to this square and pick up the queen. That looks good, and it looks like the king's going to be in big trouble. Is there anything better, though? So that would obviously be winning, but we want to find the best combination. So do you see anything better? I'll go ahead and play the first move. Maybe it'll be a little bit easier to see here. All right. So what other options do we have? Remember, we have rook here, we have queen here, both of which look pretty good. The rook is better because that would mean 2 attackers on the queen, right? You can play check here with the pawn, and well, that guy will get gobbled up, and I'm not sure what we do after that. And I like the pawn controlling this square. We don't have any other pieces controlling that square. Keep in mind, king does not has only 1 square he can run to right now. Did you find the answer? That's right, checkmate. So ignore winning the queen and find a better option there. Alright, this is a nice little combination here, and these are the type of combinations when you're getting started. You really want to, not necessarily memorize, but kind of just get the ideas down. And it doesn't look like there's anything great right away, but the key is let's look at, see, obviously the king has very few squares to go to. As a matter of fact, this is the only square it could flee to right now. So when the king is kind of open and vulnerable to attack, your pieces are near it, especially your heavy pieces, queens and rooks and that, and it doesn't have a lot of squares to go to, you should really look to kind of force things. right? So now we have a couple of checks. We've got a check here, check here, check here, check here, and a check here, well, in here as well. So quite a few checks to consider. Let's look at this one first. So we play check there. There's a couple things that can happen. Queen can block there, but that doesn't make any sense. We'll just gobble the queen. Same thing, rook can block, but then we'll just gobble the rook, and that's game over. So the king would have to move. And from there, well, we got a couple things we can do. We can't play check over here with the rook, or I'm sorry, the knight, because it would just get taken. So that doesn't really make any sense. We could come back and play check here or here with the queen again, but it just looks like the king just either runs away or goes back and repeats the position, and I'm not sure what we've gained from that. So check here, well, queen just grabs it, and we can come back and recapture, but, well, when we have the initiative like this, we don't really want to be trading pieces. So how about this check here? Well, in this situation, the queen could come in and block, so that doesn't really gain anything on the surface, but there is a distinct difference here, is if the queen has been deflected over here to the d1 square and is no longer on the d3 square, then the queen is not protecting a key square here on e3. And I can deliver checkmate after that. So if you haven't seen it yet, try to find it, and I will show you in 3, 2, 1. Alright, so now, if we come back here, as you can see, like I was talking about before, the king now has nowhere to go. It's completely trapped in by its own pieces. The only way it could flee, it has nothing. So it must interpose with a piece in order to prevent checkmate, and unfortunately the only piece that can do that is the queen. The queen is not defended, and we can easily deliver checkmate with our own queen. Very nice. Alright, here is one that is very similar to the last one I showed you, kind of the same idea. So go ahead and see if you can find it here before I spill the beans. Alright, so the idea is the rook is kind of guarding the king in, but the king has no squares it can move to because, well, our queen's got everything covered. And I don't know what black did in this game, but this queen is way over here in no position to defend the king whatsoever. And these pieces are all over here taking a nap. They haven't even been developed. And so even though white is down significant material, white is about to win this game. So we can play check. That looks good. Allows the king to escape back here, and we can come back over here with another check, which that actually looks like checkmate. So that's mate in 2. Is that? Well, there might be multiple answers to this puzzle. Let me check this one. I didn't consider this. So check. If rook blocks here, we play checkmate with the queen. If king comes down here, we come back, and yeah, all the squares are covered because the so that looks like a mate in 2. I don't see any mate in 1s. The idea I saw originally, bonus points to you if you saw both checkmates. Let me just see if I'm correct here. Let me try this one. So we have check, and now that the rook is deflected, it can no longer block. I just want to go back and see if it will accept both of these. Let's refresh this. Oh, good, I can. Okay, let me try this idea. Aha! So there is 2 solutions to this puzzle. Very interesting. Very interesting. So if you found one of those, good for you. I saw the first one and then I kind of stopped and found the second one through analysis. So that's don't run into that very often. All right, very good, very good. All right, I'm going into this part of the practice part here because I wanted to show you something that was not a checkmate pattern, because that seemed to be what they were giving me in the training. So This is a fairly simple tactic, but it requires a kind of a little special idea. So go ahead and take a minute if you want to look at it. And so this is not a checkmate puzzle, but the key here is we can actually pick this queen up. Like I gave you a little hint, it's a deflection idea. So what I would like to do is I would like to come down here and play on the dark squares, because I have a dark square bishop, opposite colored bishops, and also that well, the king, the black king in this situation, given that I have a dark square bishop and he doesn't, should do anything in its power to stay on the light squares. It's far less vulnerable to attack on the light squares, since I do not have a light square bishop, and he does, than it would be on the dark squares. So since it's on the dark squares, we can look to exploit that, and there is a way here. Now, if I came in and played check right away, the king would probably move here or here, most likely to this square. And I could pick up the queen then, but it would just recapture back. And I don't really have any other checks. Once again, now that the king is on the light squares, it can use the bishop as a defender and the queen. So I'll be not quite as strong in that position. However, if I use my bishop to move the king away from the queen, suddenly when I come in and play this idea, it is too far away to come and defend, and now white is won. Alright, this is a beautiful idea that I love that comes up very often in games that beginners often don't see, but if you learn how to look for these types of ideas, your game will improve drastically. Now, we could trade this rook for this bishop, or I'm sorry, this knight for the bishop here, which would be nice. But I like the knight. The knight's on a pretty strong outpost. We've got a pretty good attack on the queen right now, or on the king, excuse me, and I'm not really interested in giving that up. So let's see, we could come in and play some checks here and here with the queen, or here, but in all of those scenarios, our queen gets gobbled up, and, well, what would we do after that? Anything else? I don't really see anything else, so let's look at the queen checks. Queen here, you can take this way or this way, and no way for the knight to come in and deliver any kind of checks or attacks. There's a little hint here, this is a fork challenge, so we're probably going to either be using the queen or the knight to make a fork. Let's say if we take here, and the king decides to recapture. So now the king's on this square, and I can deliver check here, 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 or here with the queen. All of those cases the king will gobble it up, and now I don't really have any pieces left to attack with, so that's probably not correct. If I play here, the king would come in and take the queen. Now we have some checks. We can play check here with the knight, or check here. In this scenario, remember the king's here, the king would move away, probably back to where it was or something like that, and we're not really attacking anything else. If we played here, well, the bishop, that would be nice because it would fork these two pieces, the queen and the king, but unfortunately the bishop is defending that square, so the bishop would once again gobble the knight and nothing would happen. What if we played to this square? Well, wait a minute, the king could just grab the queen, yes, but hold on, we have a check here and here. Well, let's look at this one, capturing the bishop. The bishop, as you can see, is no longer defended by any piece, and look at that. It is forking the queen and the king, and what looked like a silly queen sacrifice is going to net us an entire piece here, and black will easily be able to win this game with the extra knight attacking here and can jump out back to any strong outpost it wants. Game over. Okay, here's another one let's take a look at really quick. I like this one because this looks a lot like something you might see from a Paul Morphy game. If you've ever seen any Paul Morphy games, I encourage you to check those out. In any event, he was an American player, probably one of the first ever, quote, grandmasters, top player of his time. And he played a lot of openings that are highly recommended for beginners and won a lot of quick games just like this. So The white player greedily came in and tried to fork these two pieces, and well, the fork doesn't matter because this guy is trapped and can't move. So this rook's going to get picked up no matter what. But he ignored a very, very serious threat, and that's the discovery against his king. You never, never, never want to leave your king vulnerable to discoveries. The best move here, I think, for white, if we want to go back, would have probably been to capture here, honestly. It's tough to say. This move looks good. Even this move looks good. Castling queenside looks good, which is probably available. Bishop would come here and block this threat, but it's better than what's going to happen. So, do you see the answer? And yes, we have the discovery available here. So, a couple of different, we can play the bishop to any of these squares to create that discovery. However, the knight is attacking this rook, so if we just move it to any old square, our rook's going to get gobbled up. So we need to make sure we come with a strong attack. And as you may see, we can play here, which creates a double check. And anytime you have double check, the king must move, because there's no way to either interpose or take out both pieces at the same time with one move. So the king must move here, making this guy immune to capture and the pawn immune from blocking, which in any other situation, if you could only play one of these checks, well, it wouldn't be very good. So we have the double check here, and well, the king only has one square to go to, and he's been checkmated partially due to his own pawn here. King safety comes first, folks. Alright, one more for a day. Today, this is probably the most exciting one. I like this one a lot. So why don't you go ahead and see if you can find the solution here before I give you any hints. 3, 2, 1. Alright, I hope you noticed this has been a theme that the king has nowhere to go. It is trapped in by its own pieces. The bishop is covering the only escape square quite nicely here. And white has a series of strong moves they can make. We have our pawn here, which is coming in. Normally, I would like to come in here and force a weakness by loosening up the king side, but in that scenario, well, I'm not really sure how he would proceed. He would just advance, and, well, there's not a whole lot going on after that. Do we have any checks? Well, we have one check. If you saw rook takes h7, good for you. Is that a good move? The king would just recapture, right? Is there anything to do after that? Let's try it. And did you see queen in to h5, covering the only other escape square? Sacrifice and checkmate. Always something to look for. Newer players often don't worry enough about defending their king. They think, oh, there's a lot of pressure on the king here, and another piece that can move in and attack the king really quickly. Even playing queen to this square would actually be really dangerous. White would have to play something like bishop here to defend, and well, that would actually turn out pretty badly for black, but not nearly as good as winning immediately. So hope you guys saw this. Hope your chess is improving. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.